Hey everyone, it's an absolutely beautiful day out, so I thought I would do this video outside. So anyway, this is a video I've been wanting to do for a while now, and mainly because someone asked me about my quote-unquote baby bat days recently, and I'm like, I need to get around to making that video. So, yeah. So basically, I'm just going to offer some advice and some insight for newcomers to the goth scene. Doesn't matter how old you are, if you're in your 20s, if you're in your teens, or if you're like 9. I mean, for crying out loud, if you're a newcomer, you're a newcomer. Obviously, if you're a young child, your perspective is going to be very different, because I will be talking about some adult things that younger people may have a hard time relating to, and vice versa. So also, if you're a little older and you're realizing, you know what, I'm a goth. So anyway, I'll do my best not to ramble in this video. My thoughts are somewhat scattered today. I had surgery on my foot this morning. I'm in a little bit of pain, so you'll have to just sort of forgive me. But anyway, so I recall, I think I first started turning goth, I was 14 or 15 maybe. I was no longer in middle school, I know that much. I got into high school and there were these like beautiful goth people at my high school. And there was this one girl who wore these like long, like elvish looking black and purple dresses to school almost every day. And she wore like white contacts, or she would do some kind of groovy makeup to make herself look dead. And I thought she was so cool, and I never really got to know her much because I was a freshman and she was a senior. So obviously I really was not particularly welcome, and I still was figuring out where I belonged at school. But becoming goth myself, basically how I started was I basically just started picking out more and more black clothing. I bought myself a pair of boots with my Christmas money one year, and my mom and dad I didn't really get a whole lot of flack for it. My mom was was pretty understanding, so was my dad. My dad never said a word about it. He just assumed, oh, she's just doing her artist thing. So I never heard anything about it from him. My mom, on the other hand, complained every once in a while. She would complain that she never got to see me dress in color, or what she'd do is she'd go out and buy something colorful, hoping that she could convert me back. And I'm like, I'm not going to wear that. And she'd be like, oh, yes, you are. I said, no, I'm not. Yes, you are. No, I'm not. I stood my ground, and it got me in trouble a couple of times. But as far as like just letting me be myself, my parents were pretty fucking cool about it. At school, I got picked on and somewhat for being goth and for being different, usually by the kids who are considered, I call them whores and players, the really preppy, uppity, snooty, prissy kids who think they're beautiful, who think they're wonderful, when actually their grades really kind of suck. They're not very smart, they just look pretty. And they all dress exactly alike, like they all wear the exact, at the time, what was hot at the time was rugby shirts and, let's see, overalls. I mean, they all wore the exact same clothes, like they'd been shopping, like, at the mall, mall preps, pretty much. And that's who made fun of me, and it kind of just rolled right off my shoulders because I thought they were stupid. I didn't care what they thought. And I even told one girl, I said, why do you think I give a shit what you think? I'm like, you are inferior. That's just what I said to her, which I should not have said that to her. I should have just ignored what she was saying and just walked on. But, yeah, I would even get like hateful notes shoved into my locker, and every once in a while I would get like the religious nutbags who would put like a Bible quote or something on a note and shove it in my locker, and my friends too. And I was in high school amidst about the time when the Columbine shooting happened, and I remember me and several of my friends actually got taken into the principal's office, and we were basically questioned and grilled and asked, oh, are y'all in the trench coat mafia? And they would ask us about each other. Like they asked me about a couple of my friends who wore trench coats to school, and asked me, do you know if they have access to weapons, or do you know if they're building bombs, and what are they prone to violence? Do they play video games? And I'm like, I'm not answering these questions. This is bullshit. I'm like, you can send me home from school today if you want. I don't care. I've got, my grades are not going to suffer. I do well in school. So you can send me home for not answering questions. I mean, I was such a smart mouth when I was a kid. I mean, I've always been that way. I've always been someone who really stands my ground and does not tolerate anyone messing with me. But anyway, so I considerably compared to what other kids go through, I had it pretty easy as a baby bat. So, the advice I'm going to give to those who have it much harder is going to be, and of course it depends on your situation at home. I don't know your situation. Your parents could be these uber strict religious people, or they could be like just uber strict, or they could just be the kind of people who don't like anything alternative and just assume that you're worshiping Satan, or they just assume that you're depressed because you're a goth, which that's a really damaging stereotype, by the way. Just because someone's goth does not mean they're depressed, and you don't have to be depressed to be goth either. And just because someone's depressed doesn't mean they're going to turn goth. And so actually, if you think that way, you're kind of dumb. Sorry. That's the honest truth. You're kind of dumb, you're kind of shallow, and you're not very well educated. So, yeah, but yeah, my advice would be, like, if your parents are moderately strict, take this advice. Try and wait it out. Like, if your parents are just not cool with you being goth, do your best to just wait it out. You will not be in high school forever. You will not be a kid forever. You will eventually turn 18. You will eventually turn 20. You will eventually move out of the house. Now, arguing with your parents about it, arguing, the back and forth banter, and arguing, it really accomplishes nothing. What's going to happen is, since they have the power to punish you, is they will punish you. You will end up probably crying in your room by yourself while they do something like take away your phone, take away video games, take the door off the hinges, take away something to punish you, or ground you, or something like that, or take away the car keys, whatever it is you value. That's how they know they can punish you that way, by taking that away. So honestly, if you argue with them, all you're going to do is end up crying, and you're going to feel empty and spent. So there's that. I know I've spent some time feeling kind of empty and spent myself when I was a teenager, especially when I felt like I was right, and I feel like I was being completely just oppressed, really. If you're oppressed, you just ride it out. Oh, the neighbor just came outside. So, ride it out. You're not going to live at home forever. When you move out, then start dressing goth. And if they try to say something to you, you know what? You can talk back, you can tell them off, put them in their place, defend yourself without being punished. That's my advice. For those who have parents who are questioning what's going on with the whole goth thing, like, well, what is goth and why do you want to be it? Just explain, hey, I like the aesthetics of it. You can defend yourself that way. Just be explanatory. Try to educate them, not so much talk back to them. Lenient parents do have their strict side. But use the lenient side to your advantage. So, my advice would be just explain things to them. Say, hey, this is who I am. This is who I am at heart. I don't like wearing all the frilly stuff. I don't like wearing preppy clothes. I just want to be myself. I just, I have friends. I'm not on drugs. I'm not depressed. I have, my friends are like this. This is who we are. We like poetry. We like music. Just kind of point out the things about goth that makes it look intellectual and beautiful rather than what makes it look dark and scary. And maybe they'll come around. And just, and say, hey, Mom, why don't maybe we could go shopping, and you can help me pick out some boots, or I'll pick out some boots and you can look at them, and I'll put on a fashion show for you, or something like that. So, yeah, parents like fashion shows with their teenagers because parents like to see their kids happy. So if you put on a fashion show for them with your clothes and whatnot, they might be able to accept it a little better because they'll see how happy you are in your clothes. They'll see you in your element, and they'll realize, you know what? This really makes my child happy. I can't fathom taking it away from them. Sway them that way. You can, in fact, use their emotions against them. I'm not saying manipulate your parents. What I'm saying is work to your advantage to be able to express yourself. We're talking about self-expression here. We're not talking about robbing a bank. We're not talking about, cutting down a cherry tree. We're talking about you being who you are and expressing yourself. So on some level, a little manipulation, I think, is okay. Especially if it'll let you be who you are, and you'll find some friends, and you'll be happy. And you know what? When you're happy, you do better in school, too. So, honestly, if your grades are hurting and you feel like you're being a little oppressed and you're not really able to be yourself, so that'll help, actually. I know it did for me. I made much better grades when I got into my sophomore year of high school, and I realized who I was and what I wanted to be. So, yeah. But, As far as like getting your hands on clothing, if you're a kid and you don't have a whole lot of money, except for just like allowance or something, if you're old enough to get a job, just get a job for the weekends. You know, something where you're just doing something relatively low stress. And the nice thing about being a teenager at a job is you can job hop if they piss you off. You can job hop and someone will always hire you because they assume they can screw you over. I'm just being blunt. I am just being blunt. You know, you'll always have a gig. You know, and then take your gig money, save half, and spend half. So, yeah. Let's see, there's always, you know, the thrift stores, actually, the Goodwill and other thrift stores tend to have really cool stuff that can be repurposed or that can be dyed even. Like if you find this really awesome blouse or really cool shirt or something, you can buy some dye and you can dye it if it's not black already. Not that it has to be black. A lot of goths wear red or purple or like gray or silver colors. So yeah, or like crinkle dye even. Believe it or not, you can even go to Walmart and find some stuff that lends itself well to what it is you're trying to do. So money, you know, it sucks that money is such an issue when it comes to the goth scene because the nice goth clothes are actually quite expensive, which really sucks. But you know what? The people who make those clothes, a lot of those clothes are in fact made in the United States. A lot of them, you know, someone had to sit and design the clothing. You know, the people who make those clothes, they have to eat too. So, you know, if you have the money to get something nice and you want to, then, I mean, hey, fucking go for it. So just make sure you know your size if you're going to order online. I learned this the hard way when I was a kid. If you're going to order online, make sure you measure yourself. Do your shoulder to shoulder, do your waist and your hips, and also your shoulder to floor, and like neck, yeah, shoulder to floor I think is what, or neck to floor, I'm not sure what it is. Do your measurements, get someone to measure you, get your mom maybe, or you know, a friend or somebody, measure each other, write down your measurements, and make sure you know your measurements, otherwise you're just going to waste a lot of money on stuff, and you're going to have to send stuff back, and then wait for the new thing to come, and it's just going to suck. You're going to kick yourself because you're going to be so excited that something's coming in the mail, and you'll get it, and you won't be able to wear it. Been there, done that. So, when you're young and getting into the goth scene, every group of friends has that one person who's kind of an elitist, or maybe maybe there are elitists in separate groups, like at your school. Maybe like you're in one goth group, there's another goth group of mean assholes. So anyway, dealing with elitists, the best way to deal with them is to just completely ignore them. Just pretend they are not there. If they're talking to you, act like they're not there. I'm being totally serious. Pretend they aren't there. Don't give them any power over you. Don't let them affect you in any way. You know what, even though words do hurt, if it reaches a point where it's actually bullying, then you definitely want to go to the principal's office and say something about it. Get something done about it, because it should not be happening that way. But you know what, normal peer conflict, you know, that's not worth going to the principal's office for. Just completely ignore the assholes. Ignore the elitists. And the funny thing is, elitists don't know that they're elitists. So telling them that they're an elitist snob or that they're an asshole is not going to get you anywhere. They're just going to laugh at you, so, which will cause you more pain. So anyway, but if it does turn into bullying, you definitely want to put a stop to it. So, anyway, I also want to mention being goth or being in the scene and doing what a lot of teenagers do, which is lie to your parents about who you're with and where you're going. Honestly, I only did that once when I was in high school, and it really was not worth it because I was so terrified that my parents would find out. The fact that, you know, being terrified that they'd find out totally ruined the fact that, you know, the memory that I had of actually sneaking out of the house with my friends to go to a party for much older kids where people were getting drunk and a girl almost got raped. Another story for another time, but at the same time, I was so terrified my parents would find out, and I was terrified of if they did find out, like, what would they do to me? It just ruined it for me. I was not able to look back on that memory with joy or, you know, with any kind of glowing emotions at all whatsoever for a long time. So, Also, you gotta put safety first. Being goth means sometimes going out to the club with friends or whatnot. There are clubs for teenagers. I've seen them around. So, but you gotta put safety first. You know, I mean, you gotta use a little common sense, really. If you're going out with your friends, do tell someone where you're going. Do tell someone so that if you don't return home, people know where to start looking for you first. It's just common sense. Do stay in touch. Like, you know, it gets to be a certain time, you know, call or send a text to mom or dad or to somebody, your older sibling, older brother, older sister, somebody like that, you know, to let them know that you're okay so they don't have to worry. And if they call you and tell you come home right now, don't argue with them, just go home. So, yeah. But, I mean, like I said, you know, advice for baby bats. You know, you don't have to dress like the vampire Lestat every day. You know, goth means being open and open-minded, and it means being understanding and accepting of yourself and others. It means knowing who you are, and it means understanding that other people have their own rights, their own expression, and their own boundaries as well. So there are a lot of goths out there that look down their nose at normal people. I kind of do on some level, I'll admit it. But the thing is, treat others the way you want to be treated. And to go around telling other people, oh, you're, you know, other goths, oh, you're not goth enough, or you're not wearing whatever, therefore you're not goth, and, or why don't you get educated on what goth really is, you're not a true goth. Saying things like that, that makes you an asshole. So don't do it. That kind of prejudice and exclusion and that elitist behavior really does sort of undermine the very spirit of the alternative community. We're supposed to have each other's backs. We're not supposed to be putting each other down. So anyway, I think that's about it for this video. I'm not sure. Oh, and when it comes to religion, you know, you can be any religion you are and still be goth, you know. And you can even, like, if you're not religious and you want to be goth, that's fine too. You know, it's also okay for you to be friends with people who are not goth, just like it's okay for, you know, them to be friends with each other. You know, you don't have to be only friends or friendly towards other goths. So that's like a huge misconception. Goths tend to flock together because they feel as though they're the only ones who understand each other. But I'm sure, you know, if you talk to normal people, if you talk to people, you'll find that actually a lot of them are more understanding than you might realize. So there's that. Be friends with who you want to be friends with. And I think that concludes this video. I think I've said enough. If I've forgotten anything, I'll add it on at the very end. So anyway, thank you for watching. Like and share. And do subscribe to my channel. If you have any questions for Q&A Sunday, or Sunday Q&A rather, just put them down in the comments section, and I'll get to them. So, but yeah, every Sunday I answer your questions. It's called Sunday Q&A. So yeah, subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you kids later.